Hey guys, Chris Moran here. We're going to continue the build here with installing the shocks to the car. So we're getting there. Car's looking really nice. About done here. Finishing up a few things and a couple more videos and we'll have a complete car here. So let's go ahead and get these shocks mounted up. In the last video we built the shocks. All I have done since that was just pop the springs on. So with the springs, I will just say that I like to have the open side of the spring cup towards the outside of the car on all four wheels. So the closed side is at the pocket of the arm that's cut out. And I also like to have the bleeder hole screw towards the inside of the car. So other than that, that's all I like. That's what I like to do. It's not a necessary thing, but it's something I like to do. So as mentioned in the last video, I'll be using the +5 standoffs for the rear of the car. So we'll go ahead and get a couple of those. You do need the longer screw for that, which it comes with, so not a big deal there. And we'll go ahead and get our other ones opened up as well. Get all our parts out here. Okay, so get these rear standoffs put on. So you're going to need to put the washers on. Alright, all my washers are on. Okay, so for the rear shock, I run the middle hole on the tower, which is the third one from the outside. Okay, so we'll put just a little bit of Loctite onto the thread closer to the inside, not where the nut's going to be, but where the actual standoff is going to be. So we'll be closer to the inside there. Just screw this all the way on real quick. Okay, so the wrench size that fits the standoff is 8mm. So if you want to have a wrench that fits this so it don't scar it up using pliers, 8mm is the size you want. So just tighten this down really tight. Car around, get these front ones put on here. So the front one, I run one hole in from being middle, so it's the second hole from the inside. ahead and get these put on here real quick. Alright, so the shock standoffs are installed now. We won't be using the standard ones. Like I said, those were for the rear. I used the +5, so we set those off to the side. So, get all our screws here out of the way. Alright, so installing the front shock. Like I said, I like to have the bleeder screw inside to the car and the cutout for the thing out. So when you're popping in the actual bushing, you're going to want to pay attention to that. Make sure that it gets put in there correctly. So, nothing really to the front shock, really. Just bolt it in. Make sure when you push the bushing on that it's super free on the standoff. That's most important thing, and this one is. Sometimes I get a bushing here and there that's tight and needs like drilled out, but these ones are super free, and that's what you want. So make sure you get you have that, and then on the front, the thick part of the bushing to the inside. Okay, so for the right front, so looking at your car, I always go from looking at the rear. Your right side is the right rear, and then right front. If you're looking at the front of the car, from the front, obviously this would be the left, but in racing terms, this is the right front. So I always run the outside location on the arm on all four, and for this one here, you're gonna want to use the silver reverse thread screw. So I'll go ahead and get that tightened down. So you use the reverse threaded screw on the right front. Like I said, if you're looking from the front of the car, it would be your left side, your left hand. You want to use the reverse threaded screw. Now make sure you don't use a cordless screwdriver to tighten these down. Make sure you use your hand because that plastic is very soft, and you can't feel with this cordless screwdriver when you're over tightening it. So it's best to use your hand, and that way it doesn't get the plastic hot and it doesn't ruin it. normally I will put a drop of Loctite into the nut itself, into the threads, but I'm not doing that right now because most likely these shocks will come back off when I actually go to run the car. So I won't be doing that right now. Same thing, we'll put this on the outside and we're going to use the standard black screw. This is standard thread. So the silver ones, like I said, are the reverse threaded screws, and the black ones are standard thread screws. Okay, this is what you got when you're done there. Now we'll go ahead and set the droop on the front of the car before we move to the back. For that, we're going to need a car stand of some sort. We'll just use this little thing right here. Okay. So to set the droop, it's going to be hard for me to do this where you can see. I use a WRC droop gauge, makes it super easy, but basically you're going center of the top screw to center of the bottom screw. But with this gauge, it latches onto the nut and gives you the number at the center of the. So, basically the droop setting I would do with the stock shock towers is full droop. And how you get full droop is by removing the nut, removing the shock, and lower the arm down until your shock just goes onto the shock standoff itself. And that measurement is going to be, should be 108 millimeters. Using a droop gauge, it should be what you end up with. If you choose to run the optional towers, the LCG towers, those towers are 3 millimeters shorter. So your droop number would change to 105, or 105, to have the same amount of droop. Alright, so moving on to the rear. You're essentially going to do the same thing as the front, but when you're using the +5 standoffs, there is a little bit of modification that has to be done to get the shock to not be completely bound up. So we will do that real quick. Okay. So you put your shock on. Try to show this. So basically, with the +5 standoff, your shock isn't quite lined up with the arm pocket because of the angle. It don't allow it to come forward enough down here. So basically what we got to do is make a quick, everything's working against me, a modification to the bushing itself here. What we're going to do is, since this bushing is just slides in and out the shock really easy, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to pull the shock bushing out about 3/4 of the way, and we're going to glue the shock bushing into the cap. So just put a little bit of glue in about 3 different spots, and then push that in, and then you'll have this. And then while we're waiting on that one to dry, we will go ahead and do the other one. All right. So now then, what we're going to do is get our Dremel out. And what I have here is a 5/32 chainsaw file. And we'll just stick this into here, and we're going to Dremel this into a pattern of basically down. We're going to go in here and go down as if we were trying to move the shock this way. What I suggest is just do a little bit and then try it, and then do a little more and try it. It does take quite a bit to do. Think you got the dremeling to where it needs to be, go ahead and clean up any flashing you got on there. Just use a really sharp X-Acto knife and it'll come right out. Alright, so you probably can't tell, but now that bottom is oblonged to give it the shock angle we need. So you basically, you put this on here, you want it to where you can push the shock forward and it goes all the way to the over the back side of that rear hub. That's what you're looking for. So then you know that it's going to drop right into the arm pocket with some plenty of movement there. So let's go ahead and bolt this on real quick. Always bolt the top on first. That way you can double check that everything is lined up right. You can see that it still goes all the way to the, even with that bolted on, and you can see that it moves extremely free. So that's what we're looking for there. The same as the front, actually opposite as the front. The side that the front one goes on is the side that the rear one uses a standard screw. On the rear, you're going to go to the left rear. Looking at the rear of the car, it'll be the left side. That's the one you want to use the silver reverse threaded screw in. So this one is the right rear. We're going to use the standard black screw in it. All right. All right, so that's what we got. Like that. Outside holes on there, same as the rear. And as far as the droop, with the stock shock tower, we're going to do the same as we did on the front, and we're going to run full droop. So you just going to pull this off here, which it is set to full droop now, but I'm just going to show this should just drop right on to the shock standoff, and it shouldn't be able to pull on the shock at all. And it should just be right, the perfect amount of full shock length, but not pulling on the shock or pushing on the shock. Okay, so that number, to give you a number, what that would be is 126.5. So if you really want to play it super safe on durability, you can set your droop to 126, and that'll give a little bit of pressure on the extra bit on the shock end, so it doesn't pull out under a hard crash, which is what I'm going to run is 126. There we go. So there's 126 millimeters, shocks mounted up. The video's getting kind of long, so I'll install this off the video. It's the same exact process as we just did on this one, so nothing new. And I think you should understand the point after we did this one, and we should be good to go. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned to the channel as we continue the build.